Hey guys, it's been a while, but I'm back. I decided to take a little break for summer vacation. I just finished my doctorate degree. I ended up getting really badly sick. I had the flu, and then I had a Lyme disease scare, and then I had to move from the United States back to Canada, which is why I haven't posted much videos in quite a while. Had to treat myself to a little break. Don't worry, the Lyme disease shit, caught it early. Guys, whenever you go out in the woods in Maine, make sure to check yourself for ticks. I watched Nope. I'm a little late to this review because of reasons that were stated, but I just want to talk about it because I feel like none of the reviews on the internet align with my review. What are my thoughts on Jordan Peele? Jordan Peele, the comedian, I like. I liked Key and Peele. Sure, it was a shameless ripoff of the Dave Chappelle show. I didn't really care. They were still funny. But what about Jordan Peele, the horror director? Well, let's start with Get Out. Get Out was his first movie, his directorial debut, and everyone was jizzing their pants when it came out. And rightfully so, I think it's a competently made movie. When I watched Get Out, I was like, this is a really clever movie. It's kind of a statement on racism, but not your overt Hollywood racism like, black women shouldn't be astronauts. It's more of that kind of liberal elite racism that's kind of subtext. It's a criticism of that, and I thought for that reason it was pretty clever. Then after a while, it started getting nominated for Oscars, people started praising it, and I feel like as soon as the Academy Awards started praising it, I kind of felt less interested with the movie because it was a criticism of that kind of elite liberal racism, and then all of a sudden the Academy was in on the joke. I feel like that's the reason why I kind of lost interest in the movie. When I watched the movie, I thought it was a good, schlocky, fun movie. It ends with the black people getting their brains replaced with white people. I was like, oh, this is so dumb and schlocky, but I'm digging it. But all of a sudden, it became like this global phenomenon. And you go online and you look at the greatest screenplays ever made, and you're gonna find Get Out there. And I'm like, I get it. It's pretty good. I never thought of it on that level. Then his second attempt was Us. And surprisingly enough, I think Us is a better movie than Get Out. Actually, scratch that. Get Out is a better movie, but to me, Us is a better watch. I think it's really fun to watch Lupita Nyong'o chew up the scenery. Her as the doppelganger is terrifying. The fact that there's this society living below our society and mirroring our every move, I thought was a clever premise. And of course, there's plot holes upon plot holes, but I don't really care about plot holes in movies. It's not really something that takes me out of the movie. As long as there's good characters and there's like some clever scenes to it, plot holes never really bother me unless they're very glaring. But for the most part, I really liked Us. I liked Us more than I liked Get Out, but I acknowledge Get Out might be a better movie. I like to compare Jordan Peele's career to M. Night Shyamalan. Both had that really big successful hit. M. Night Shyamalan's first movie was The Sixth Sense, horror classic. Get Out, I would consider a horror classic as well, just because of the impact it had on society. And then both had their sophomore movies, Unbreakable, which is brilliant, and you have Us, which may be a step down from Get Out, but in the grander scheme of things, I think Get Out is a competently made movie. And then their third movies are alien movies, which you had Signs with M. Night Shyamalan, and here you have Nope, which is a UFO movie. And I feel like both directors landed, hit the ground running, everyone praised them, and I feel like both of them are gonna eventually. Not that I wish Jordan Peele is gonna have that trajectory, but I've seen a lot of directors where it's just like they get so much hype and they end up falling victim to their own success. That's not the case with Nope, though. I do think it's his weakest movie. But again, I am one of those people that liked Us more than your average person. I think most people would rank his movies like Get Out, Nope, Us. And I would go Us, Get Out, Nope. And I know I'm in the minority here. But overall, I still really enjoyed the movie. It was a fun time in the cinema, but it didn't really knock my socks off. A lot of people are praising this movie. They're like, wow, it's so brilliant. And there are some brilliant aspects to this movie. I just wanted something a bit more. I'm gonna spoil the whole movie, by the way. But anyway, the movie opens, and you have this kind of opening stinger that involves a monkey in a sitcom that kills everyone, or most people, in the theater. That's your opening bit. And you're like, holy shit, well, how is this going to come into play later? And it doesn't really ever come into play, unfortunately. But anyway, then you're introduced to Daniel Kaluuya's character and his father, played by Keith David. Guys, big Keith David fan, by the way. Has a beautiful voice. He's the voice of the bad guy in Princess and the Frog. But other than that, I'm a huge fan of They Live. So when Keith David showed up in this movie, first of all, I thought he was dead, to be quite frank. But yeah, so you're introduced to Daniel Kaluuya and Keith David. Keith David dies mysteriously through an object piercing his body as it falls through the sky. And that kind of leaves a mark on Daniel Kaluuya, obviously. He just witnessed the death of his father. We flash forward a few years, and Daniel Kaluuya is taking care of the ranch. He is not as interested in horse wrangling as his father was. You can tell that the father was the beating heart of this business. And his sister, played by Keke Palmer, is also not too interested with working as a wrangler, but she's able to put a smile on her face. She's a very peppy kind of character. I thought she did a phenomenal job in the movie. I thought all the performances here were good. Then all of a sudden, UFOs start appearing. Daniel Kaluuya and his sister figure that they might be able to make some money out of getting footage of the UFO. Meanwhile, Daniel Kaluuya is selling horses to Steven Yeun, who's a child star who was on the set of that sitcom Incident. Everything on the surface of this movie works. This is what I mean. I thought Daniel Kaluuya's character had a really interesting character arc. Here's a guy who, his father just passed away. He's forced into being an animal wrangler, which really isn't his jam. But at the end of the movie, you realize that the UFO, in fact, is basically a giant animal. And he has to basically wrangle this UFO. He has to learn what are its weaknesses, what are its strengths, how can you defeat this UFO. He's basically animal wrangling the UFO. And I thought that arc really worked. I think the whole purpose of the chimpanzee subplot is to show what goes wrong when your animal wrangling sucks. Regardless, I think it was useless in the movie, but the whole movie kind of has this theme of wrangling, which is a very simple theme. I think people thought Jordan Peele's last movie, Us, was a little too heavy-handed in its messaging, so he tried to make something a lot more lighter in tone. Some great set pieces in here as well. There's a scene involving the POV of Steven Yeun when he was younger, and he's watching the monkey kill people on the set. That was a really good scene. It had a lot of good scares. There's a scene with, my favorite scene in the movie was, there's this scene where they're trying to capture footage of the UFO, and there's a mantis that ends up on the lens of the camera, and you're just fucking waiting for that mantis to move so they can capture footage of the UFO, and it doesn't end up happening. They end up fucking up the shot. I thought that was the best scene of the movie. That really had me on the edge of my seat. The ending of this movie really works with Daniel Kaluuya riding a horse and trying to move this UFO monster thing around. So there's these really great individual set pieces, but they don't really amount to something greater. Everything that's set up in the movie pays off really well. The characters are really interesting. Daniel Kaluuya's character has an interesting character arc. But you kind of leave the theater thinking, wow, I had a lot of fun watching this movie, but it's not going to have much staying power because there lacks a bit of a point to it. Here's the main problem I think this movie has, is it fell victim to its own misleading advertisement. I was trying not to watch trailers for this movie, but the trailer would play before every movie that I'd go see in theaters, so I was kind of forced to watch it unless I blocked my ears and close my eyes, but I wasn't gonna do that. The trailer makes it look like there's, what's the twist? This is a horror movie. And it's not really that. I didn't view it as a horror movie. There's some horror things in it. There's some great horror elements in it. The scene where it's raining blood over the house, I thought that was pretty terrifying. Scenes where the camera's kind of pointed towards the sky and you just see the corner of Daniel Kaluuya's face and the UFO flying around. Those are really creepy scenes. But on its surface, I feel like this movie plays better as a blockbuster. Even down to its ending, where it really feels like you're watching a modern Western, with Daniel Kaluuya riding around on a horse trying to wrangle this giant UFO. It really felt more like a summer blockbuster. Even the choice of music that was playing at the end, it kind of felt like the Lone Ranger theme, which doesn't really fit your horror movie all that well. But I liked it in terms of a blockbuster, more so did I like it in terms of a horror movie. Even that closing shot of, we think Daniel Kaluuya died in a heroic sacrifice, but it turns out he's still alive and he appears and the dust of the desert kind of settles and you see Daniel Kaluuya posing on the horse. Everything about it felt like a modern western. And I liked those elements a lot because I like westerns overall, but it didn't really feel like a horror movie. I didn't leave the theater very scared. When I left the theater for Us and Get Out, I was like, oh, that was kind of weird and creepy, and it kind of felt like a heightened B movie. And then Us kind of felt very eerie. I walked out of the theater, I was like, oh, that kind of got under my skin a little bit. But that's not the impression I got, and I got more of a fuck yeah reaction as I exited this movie. And there are other negatives with the movie as well. There's a character in here, I don't know the actor's name, but he reminded me of David Carradine, so I'm just gonna call him David Carradine. He's this filmmaker and he's capturing footage on film. At some point, he just makes a completely stupid decision and ends up killing himself, and you're just like, why? That was stupid. It was like some weird backstabbing incident, but you could have waited till the UFO was gone before doing that. There was no point to the Steven Yeun subplot. Again, I feel like Jordan Peele was trying to show the dangers of improper animal wrangling with that subplot, but it didn't really make much sense narratively, so you didn't really see the point. Also, the first half will lose the audience. It's very slow, that first half. I watched this movie with my brother, and he said literally nothing happens in the first half. And they do attempt to give you scares. There's a scene where they're in a horse stable, and you see these aliens running around, and you're like, holy shit. And I remember my fucking brother-in-law was in the theater, and he fucking dropped his phone. He's like trying to find his phone while this really cool scene is happening, but it turns out it amounted to nothing. Turns out it was just kids trying to play a prank on Daniel Kaluuya. I hate shit like that. I hate fake scares, and the first half only consists of fake scares. And overall, my main gripe with the movie is that it lacks a point. I just watched Black Phone, for example, and I feel like Black Phone is ultimately a movie about abusive parents. They have the main antagonist of the movie, played by Ethan Hawke, kind of mirror the alcoholic father. And just something like that gives a point to the movie, gives a good hook, and it makes you remember the movie. And this movie kind of lacks that. So I do like the individual set pieces. I think it's a fun time at the theater. It feels like a blockbuster to me, but it doesn't really have a point. That's my review of Nope. This is my least favorite Jordan Peele movie, but by no means is this a terrible movie or a bad movie. It's a good, fun time. I might watch it again, but it's more of a fun watch, not something for it's not something as heady as it promotes itself as being. So yeah, that's my review. Sorry I've been away for a while. I'll try to do more movie reviews, but I need to move to Toronto. I'm always on the move, guys, but hopefully you guys stick around, and I promise once I get settled, shit's gonna get better. But until then, I love you.